If you knew when you were going to die, if you knew exactly how much time you had left, how would you live? What would you do the same or differently?
When I was growing up, as I'm sure everyone in this audience was, we were curious, right? I was actually looking at brains when I was 10 years old. That curiosity took me to MIT. My background's in mechanical engineering and synthetic biology. And so, for example, I work on making things from buildings to bacteria. This is actually a large-scale 3D printer to print a house in a day.
My father's grandmother was a beauty queen. My mother was a beauty queen. I did my own turn, winning pageants and crowns and titles, and then woke up and realized I was a feminist. Nonetheless, it was my voice that took me around the world.
I went to college, I went to medical school. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor.
I want to put my arm around you.
You're allowed.
Thank you.
Yeah. So by telling my story, it's compelling, and people bringing that to what's really important in life for you and for each person.
I'm doing things people do in retirement. Traveling the Silk Road, hiking the John Muir Trail, climbing Mount Shasta. Accepting that death is coming, maybe sooner for me than others my age, isn't being pessimistic. It's real.
On October 26th, 2009, I woke up from a 34-day coma after undergoing a lung transplant. After that, I began to perform again. I was invited to debut at Lincoln Center, and I was doing some public speaking on the side. I'd write this talk called From Lung Transplant to Lincoln Center, and it was awesome.
And imagine if you go to the hospital, instead of, having a terrible experience in the MRI scanner, what if you could actually go out and press a button on your phone and say, print me my skull? And then the doctor could go in and say, here's how we're gonna do the surgery. We're gonna go like this. We're gonna cut out that part of your brain, and we're gonna remove this tumor. And I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it's empowering to me as a patient to be able to do that. I was able to take this file and print out and make salt and pepper shakers for my family. I'm not joking, I gave these to all my relatives as Christmas tree ornaments. I'm serious. And why can't we interact with that data better, right? So I originally just posted that data just for friends and family, but there's a professor at MIT studying this strain of cancer, invited me to give a 5-minute patient perspective talk. So I said, sure, why not? The talk was really well received. I was asked to give another, and I couldn't believe it, but on my favorite day, which is April Fool's Day, believe it or not, there was a New York Times article published. And I couldn't believe it. I thought the joke was on me. I got over 1,000 emails that day. And they were from patients and doctors and researchers, and they all said, this matters. This is a big deal. So I said, okay, great. I didn't realize the scale of this issue, but I'll start putting a voice to it.
Death is considered a failure in Western culture and medicine. As physicians, we are taught that if someone dies, it's because something went wrong. That's not true. Everybody dies. Life is terminal. What we can do is live well while we're dying. I hope for a future where systemic chemotherapy is a barbaric thing of the past, where nobody has to go through chemo side effects.
Losing my lungs as a singer seemed the ultimate irony, but losing my face as a performer somehow seemed even more personal and insulting. I would go to radiation and chemo in the morning, and then I would lose myself in the creative process. And as the cancer was burned away, so was the pretense in my manuscript. I lost half of my hair and eyebrows. My book lost half of its pages. And as my condition physically deteriorated, my manuscript finally came into focus, and the narrative became clear. I realized that my diva self couldn't continue externally while accessing what I needed to tell the story I was supposed to tell. In order to do that, I needed to benefit from the vulnerability that true collaboration and the greatest acts of creation build.
And I wanted to end on a very personal note. I want you to switch shoes with me, because I was just like you last year. No symptoms, and then you're told in 3 weeks they're going to cut out 10% of your brain? What do you do, right? Especially when it's going to affect your language and might get rid of your personality. That's scary, right? So I sent out an email right before the surgery, and I wanted to end with the last 3 sentences that I wrote in that email. Perspective is everything, and switching shoes yields the most powerful thoughts. Family and friends are what remain when the world blurs. I was even talking about open source data then. Gather data as often as possible and share it with the world. It could save your life one day. I never would have gone to the neurological folks if I didn't have the open data from the research scan. And the last sentence was, the world is a lovely, splendid, and fascinating place, but most of all to me, it's beautifully curious. So with that, I'd love to thank you and thank Daniel and thank the university.
When we reach out and we take the hand of help that has been offered without fear of judgment or rejection, we will know how to tell our own stories. We will find our true voice, and we will discover those things within ourselves and the world around us of true beauty.
I want to remind everyone, especially these really great forward thinkers pushing longevity and pushing the future of medicine. I love what they're doing, and I think it's amazing, and I love that we are living longer and healthier lives. But I just want to remind everyone of our humanity, and that humanity does mean that there is an end.
Have you heard this term, on your tombstone? There's the date you were born, the date you passed away, and then there's the dash. What was your life meaning in that dash?
It's going to say MIT, where I went to undergrad, MD, rock star, with a star.
And in a way, you are now all a part of this journey, this story, and this encore.
So I want to thank you guys again, and I'm very honored to be here.
I'll leave you with a little poem I wrote. In a hurry. I want to see, touch, do, taste, smell, feel everything. I want to go everywhere, walk the earth, climb the mountains and snowboard down. Try everything at least once. Lots to do. I'm in a hurry. Not much time left. How long do I have before the cancer makes it impossible, narrows the world to just my room, my doctor's office, the hospital? I don't know. I can't know. Time wasted, planning for a future I don't have. Working to save for a family I will never have. No more. I'm here now to experience everything. to dance and laugh and sing around the world and at home. But I can't do it all. No lifetime is enough to experience everything. To watch the sunrise from space. I will see, do, taste, smell, feel everything I can in my lifetime, however long or short it may be. And it will be enough.
Thank you for holding that silence. And if you hear the quavering voice and hear the tears, it means I'm human, I'm not digital. This year, we lost two wonderful people who have been a part of this community and part of the faculty. And when Daniel and I thought about this, we couldn't let this moment pass without sharing that moment and sharing their good works and who they helped us to be. And part of that is that across the globe, these are difficult conversations. They're sensitive, they're tender, and we're not having them. And so in thinking about how we can be better at this and to pay tribute to these lives well lived, the lessons that they've shared with us, we thought it was really important to bring somebody here who has been thinking a lot about that. You want to talk about Michael?
So we're really fortunate to have my friend Michael Hebb, who has been leading a movement over the last several years called Death Over Dinner. Have dinner and talk about death. And as he's going to share, he's now expanding that more to open the conversation for healthcare professionals. So, Michael.
Just want to feel the room for a second. So in about 10 minutes, I get to invite you to dinner. And you get to make a decision about what kind of dinner you're going to go to tonight. You can go to a regular beach dinner, which is going to be wonderful, or you can make the decision to go to a death dinner, which will also be wonderful. I wanted people to be able to have this conversation. Really stems back to my childhood. My father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's when I was in 2nd grade, and he died when I was 13. Now, we didn't know how to talk about Alzheimer's as a culture back then, but we certainly didn't know how to talk about death, his disease, the fact that he was going to die within my family. And that lack of that conversation made it a shameful thing. And so we avoided each other as a family. And it actually exploded our whole family tree in this really detrimental way that we're still reeling from as a family today. And I want no one to have that experience again. So tonight we're going to be able to delve into what is just kind of the beta of the healthcare edition. And I'm seeing what happens when surgeons and nurses and the care teams come together and the divisions, the hierarchies are broken, and people are able to connect on a human level about what is not a failure, but about the way that death impacts them. They're engaged in a very deep, life-giving activity of talking about what they want in their life. That's the thing that this conversation does for us, is it clarifies how we want to live.
It's an important discussion. You can learn more at deathoverdinner.org, and I encourage all of you to include that in your healthcare mindset.